Hello, this is Pastor Roland. Today I'd like to continue reading from the Gospel of Mark, chapter 6, verse 30. And the apostles gathered themselves together unto Jesus and told him all things, both what they had done and what they had taught. And he said to them, Come ye yourselves apart into a desert place and rest a while. For there were many coming and going, and they had no leisure so much as to eat. In other words, there were so many people coming and going that they needed a little space. So Jesus said, let me get you a little space. Let's go to the desert. And they departed into a desert place by ship privately. And the people saw them departing, and many knew him, and ran afoot thither out of all cities, and outwent them, and came together unto them. So the people saw them leaving in the ship, and the people ran and followed them and got there before they did, before Jesus and his disciples did. And Jesus, when he came out, saw many people and was moved with compassion toward them, because they were as sheep, not having a shepherd. And he began to teach them many things. And when the day was now far spent, his disciples came unto him and said, This is a desert place, and now the time is far past. Send them away, that they may go into the country round about, and into the villages, and buy themselves bread, for they have nothing to eat. He answered and said to them, Give them something to eat. And they said to him, Shall we go and buy 200 pennyworth of bread, and give them to eat? He said unto them, How many loaves do you have? Go and see. And when they knew, they said, 5, and 2 fishes. So he asked them to go see how much bread they had, and they said, We have 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes. And he commanded them to make all sit down by companies upon the green grass. And they sat down in ranks by hundreds and by 50s. You see how many people there were? I think there were 5,000. And when he had taken the 5 loaves and the 2 fishes, he looked up to heaven and blessed and broke the loaves and gave them to his disciples to set before them. And the 2 fishes divided he among them all. And they did all eat and were filled. And they took up 12 baskets full of the fragments and of the fishes. And they that did eat of the loaves were about 5,000 people. And straightway he constrained his disciples to get into the ship and go to the other side before unto Bethesda, while he sent away the people. And when he had sent them away, he departed into the mountain to pray. So he fed 5,000 people with 2 loaves of bread, 5 loaves of bread and 2 fishes, and when he was done feeding them all, they gathered up 12 baskets full, still left over. And then he sent the people away. Okay. And then he went to the mountain to pray. Jesus went to the mountain to pray. And when even was come, that means when the evening had come, when even was come, the ship was in the midst of the sea, and he alone on the land. In other words, the disciples were on the ship, and Jesus was still on the land. He had stayed behind to pray. And he saw them toiling and rowing, for the wind was contrary to them. And about the 4th watch of the night he came unto them walking upon the water, and would have passed by them. But when they saw him walking upon the water, they supposed it was a spirit, and cried out. For they all saw him and were troubled. And immediately he talked to them and said unto them, Be of good cheer, it is I. Don't be afraid. And he went up unto them into the ship, and the wind ceased. And they were amazed in themselves beyond measure, and wondered. For they considered not the miracle of the loaves, for their heart was hardened. And when they had passed over, they came unto the land of Gennesaret, and drew to the shore. And when they were come out of the ship, straightway they knew him, and ran through that whole region round about, and began to carry about in beds those that were sick, where they heard he was. And whithersoever he entered into villages or cities or country, they laid the sick in the streets, and besought him that he might touch, if it were but the border, that they might touch, if it were but the border of his garment. And as many as touched him were made whole. So we'll stop at that point, verse 56. Beautiful. The feeding of 5,000 people. And then, see, it was just one amazing miracle after another. And then after Jesus prayed, then he went walking upon the water to the ship. And when the disciples saw him, they were amazed. They were absolutely astonished and amazed. But it said that their heart had been hardened. They hadn't even marveled at the feeding of 5,000 people with 2 loaves of bread. See, their hearts were hardened. But then the next amazing thing, so there they came to the place where they were going, and then people brought. It says, and whithersoever he entered, into villages or cities or country, so wherever he went, they laid the sick in the streets, and besought him that they might touch, if it were but the border of his garment. And as many as touched him were made whole. As many as touched, even his garment, were made whole. Okay, amazing. That's what I like about the Gospel of Mark. He brings it right down to earth, and it's like you're watching a movie. You're listening to a story of amazing, and you can picture in your mind these amazing things happening.